Sean, are we ready? Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Do appreciate you coming. This morning, to me, is it's a day of tragedy. It's a day of mourning. We mourn the loss of Cooper Davis a year ago, who died from fentanyl poisoning. We mourn the 3 or 4 other Kansans that will die today from fentanyl poisoning, that died yesterday from fentanyl poisoning. Fentanyl poisoning is the #1 killer of young adults now. A year ago, one Kansan was dying per day from fentanyl poisoning, and today it's 3 or 4 people are dying from fentanyl poisoning. It's truly an epidemic like we've never seen, the #1 public health problem in America right now as well. We've lost more Americans to fentanyl poisoning in the last year than the total number of soldiers that died in the Vietnam War. And it may be a day of mourning, a day of tragedy, but it's also a day of hope. And I just want to say thank Libby and your family for helping us use Cooper's name, Cooper Davis's name, in legislation that we're submitting. We actually submitted yesterday to the Senate that might somehow bring a message of hope to this world. And before we get Libby to talk, I'm going to ask Sheriff Calvin Hayden to talk just a second, come to the podium and talk just about what fentanyl is happening right here in Johnson County. If you're seeing what we're seeing across the rest of the state, and we went to the border ourselves, and I appreciate you going with me, sharing firsthand, seeing firsthand what the cartel really looked like and how Kansas has become a border state. So Sheriff, if you'll just take the podium for a second here.
Senator Marshall's absolutely right. We are losing young people ages 19 to 25 at epidemic levels. Every day, every week in Johnson County, our ambulances, those that survive, are getting transported about 11 and a half transports per week. It touches everybody's life. I've had a neighbor, a young man that I've known his entire life, and I live out in the middle of nowhere. And his parents, I had to talk with them, and we're still waiting on toxicology reports on that. And he was killed by fentanyl. This is murder, and now they're marketing these drugs to look like basically candy. They're multicolored candy, so they're targeting our youth, and it's tragic. It's absolutely terrible, and one pill can kill, and it usually does, 1 out of 4. And that's totally unacceptable. I'm so sorry for your loss, and we're still fighting. Our drug task force is still operating in Johnson County, one of the few left, a regional task force, and we are hurting for people right now, but we cannot stop this fight on that. Senator, thank you for everything.
Sheriff, I'm going to ask you a question, a little bit follow-up question. If our county attorneys, district attorneys would start prosecuting this as murder, what would that mean to your law enforcement officers?
It would help, and that's exactly what we're trying to do right now. We're waiting on toxicology reports to come back when we find this out. But that's reacting to the problem. We have to be proactive in this. As going to the border, seeing it firsthand what's going on. Enforcement is a huge issue. Education is a big deal. And then we got to have good treatment. And we're involved in every aspect of that, and we've got to stop this.
Sheriff, thanks for your leadership as
you.
well. I'm going to ask Libby Davis to come to the podium just for a second as well. And it's like you've said several times today, we wish you weren't here.
Right.
We wish you didn't have to be here. But we can still celebrate Cooper's life in some little way. And if we can save 1 life, maybe we'll save 10 lives today by getting the word out that 1 pill can kill. So Libby, please come and just share a little bit about Cooper's story and why your heart is in this. So.
Okay, sure. First, I want to thank Senator Marshall and his team for all of the hard work they've put into this bill. I also want to express my extreme gratitude to Senator Marshall for pushing the fentanyl conversation in Washington, for asking the hard questions, and continuing to bring attention to this epidemic. So we lost our 16-year-old son Cooper just over a year ago after he took half of a pill he thought was prescription Percocet. His toxicology report revealed there was no Percocet at all. It was only fentanyl. he had been deceived to death, poisoned by a fake pill. Cooper loved life. He was so adventurous and outgoing. He never met a stranger. He was fearless in all of his endeavors, and there was no such thing as too high or too fast. But he was still a child. And like every other child out there, their brains are not fully developed, and they're going to make bad decisions. That day, Cooper made a decision that ended his life. And like so many other teens around this country, he didn't get a chance to learn from his mistake. After losing Cooper, we immediately wanted to make sure that every person we could reach was made aware of the danger of illicit fentanyl. We started a foundation in his name, Keeping Clean for Coop. And we just wanted good things to come out of our tragedy. We want to make sure that his death is not in vain, and we want to save lives. Our government may not be able to control China or Mexico, but we should have better control over what's happening in our country. Social media apps should not be okay with their platforms being the vehicle for the drug cartel's drug distribution, resulting in the loss of many American lives every day. We're honored to have Cooper's name on this bill. A higher level of accountability for social media companies is more important than ever today. We're confident that this is one good thing that can come from our tragedy, and we're certain that it's going to save lives.
We thank you for bringing us that message of hope, but I'm going to ask you one question as well. You know, when I was growing up and the sheriff was growing up, maybe someone would experiment with a cigarette or with tobacco or maybe a beer. But you've lost a son who was experimenting, who was poisoned. What would you share with the other parents and coaches and teachers out there, what they should be communicating to their children in the world we live in today?
Exactly that. We cannot over-communicate about this problem. It needs to be, we need to be addressing the youth in our communities. Parents, coaches, teachers, everyone has to come together so that we can make a difference. Gone are the days of drug deals happening in dark alleys. Being able to purchase a drug that could potentially kill your child is just a few clicks away. So the conversations just have to happen, and they need to be happening repeatedly. It's not just a one and done. We need to talk about this daily with our kids to try to curb their curiosity and make them understand that experimenting with drugs is deathly dangerous these days.
Maybe one more question. Just talk a little bit about the role that social media played in Cooper's lives.
Yeah, well, we don't know all the details of what happened that day, but we do believe the connection was made via Snapchat, that is how those drugs came to be that day. Cooper and 3 friends purchased 2 pills that they shared, so essentially they each had half of a pill. 3 of those boys are alive today, and Cooper is not. I did my best to monitor Cooper's social media accounts, but I will tell you, there is an extensive emoji drug language where kids and drug dealers can communicate just with emojis to buy and sell drugs. But I could see with my own eyes on various occasions drugs that were being sold, pictures of them, prices of them, and it was that easy for a teenager to get a hold of.
Okay. Well, Libby, thank you for sharing your heart, and we're so grateful. And just a little bit about the Cooper Davis Act. Very simply, the Cooper Davis Act is going to hold social media accountable. That they have to proactively reach out to law enforcement officers if they're seeing drug trafficking online. This is no different than what we were doing with human trafficking, with pornography years ago, making social media be responsible for their actions, and give the sheriff and his team, local law enforcement officers, a heads up. Look, we don't want to go after the kids, but we want to go after the pushers, the murderers that are killing the youth of America. We'll stop there and happy to take a couple questions.
Can you describe how, what's the stick against social media companies for not cooperating in the bill?
Right. So first of all, we're working with Snapchat, with social media. We've engaged Senator Dianne Feinstein from California, the home of social media, to say, what would a law look like that would empower you to help us? I have to believe that these social media companies want to do the right things, but look, it'll be fines. If they don't proactively work with us, there'll be financial fines, and you know, this isn't over with. If it takes more than that, then so be it. But by the way, this is just putting finger in the dike. The real problem is a porous southern border where 7 tons of fentanyl was apprehended last year alone, and probably 4 to 5 times that is making it across this border into Kansas, which is a crossroads for drug trafficking, for human trafficking as well. Sheriff, will you talk just a second more about how Kansas is at the crossroads of your career? You know, like to me, I saw it first in the ERs with human trafficking, especially of children.
Sure. You know, when we went to McAllen, Texas, I-35 goes all the way from the border to Minnesota. So it is the main artery for transporting drugs. And you got I-70, I-80, and it's literally, the United States looks like arteries. It's coming in there by the ton. In fact, now it doesn't take that big, and that's why it's so dangerous right now. They're just mixing it up with just the precursor drugs. They don't know how much they're putting in. It is extremely dangerous, and exactly like this situation, they're making it to look like other drugs. So you really have to make sure that any pills you're taking, any pills your children are taking, are from a prescription drug and nowhere else. But also human trafficking is going on. We went down and saw tragic situations where parents' children were paid, gave their life savings to the cartel to move their children by themselves to the United States. I can't imagine how bad somebody's life would be to take the most precious thing you own or have and move them where they think they'll have a better life. The only people that are making out on this open border are the cartels and the drug dealers.
Are there cartel folks literally in Johnson County, Kansas City Metro now, employed by the cartel?
Absolutely. We have we made large drug busts. We've had homicides where we literally just recovered a cartel considered to be a hitman, where a bunch of kids in Olathe tried to rip them off. We had to go to the border and transport him back. The cartel is alive and well here, and they're living in Johnson County. And it takes a lot of investigation to identify and locate them, but we are making progress. But when it's flooding in, it's very difficult. We're much like the border guys down there. We're trying to be everywhere, even though we know we can't.
Questions? I'm going to ask Libby to talk a little bit more about the DEA program that's here in Kansas City, and what a great job that the DEA is doing too.
Yeah, they're doing so much as they can, I believe, but they just introduced a program in Kansas City it started this summer, called Operation Engage. I believe we're one of 13 cities that have this program available across the nation. You can get information off the DEA website. Just type in Operation Engage and find Kansas City listed there. But their mission is to spread awareness and educate our community and our schools about the dangers of fentanyl and address the epidemic of poisonings and overdoses in our city.
So it's a ready-made program. Schools could reach out, go to the DA website, or they could contact our office at marshall.senate.gov, and we'll try to help coordinate that as well. Last thing I'm going to talk about is Narcan, just for a second. Narcan is a drug that we use in the delivery room to reverse the effects of narcotics. I'm hoping that every school has Narcan in their school, school nurse or principal, but really anybody could deliver this. If Sheriff Hayden's officers can deliver the Narcan, we could teach teachers to do it. It's literally just a nose spray that you would give to someone that's I've been poisoned by fentanyl. When you overdose on fentanyl, when you're poisoned by fentanyl, it makes you stop breathing. You just squirt this in their noses, and it's a miracle drug.
It is.
Isn't
We've
it?
saved thousands, hundreds of lives every day in Johnson County.
And, you know, the one tip is that it may wear off in 5 to 7 minutes. So if they stop breathing, you get that second dose as well.
Right.
So, anything else? Okay. Thank you all for covering this again. I'm very, very humbled and grateful. And Libby, thank you so much. It's an incredible story. You had the courage to keep doing this. So,
Yeah, thank you. I can't
Thank you for all your
imagine.
work,
I can't
too.
imagine. We appreciate everything you're doing.
sure.
Thank you, senators. We appreciate this.
Yes, sir.
We're trying.
We're trying.
All right now.